we will have 6 crews. And in lane 1, we have Iowa. Lane 2, Indiana. Lane 3, Ohio State. Lane 4, Rutgers. Lane 5, Minnesota. And lane 6, Wisconsin. Always fun to see the 2 and the 3 seed go at it. Again, top 3 will qualify. Three finishers advance to the grand final. We have probably less than 30 seconds before this race starts, if it hasn't started already. All right, we're heading up to the start. And they're off. Here we go. Heat 2, Varsity 8. Top 3 advancing. Right now it's all, they're all bunched up here. See what happens after a few strokes. Indiana seems to be ahead of Ohio State. Now Ohio State's moving. Got Minnesota, Wisconsin stopped completely. Somebody caught a crab. They lost control of their oar. Now they're going to have to restart back up. That is never fun. Sometimes you get a boost of adrenaline. Hopefully that'll help out. You've got Minnesota here. Seems to be challenging and moving ahead of Rutgers. Rutgers appears after, right around this time, they seem to have a really great movement with their hull and a lightness to it that they really capitalize on. Minnesota's not letting them go. It's got a great race here between Rutgers, Minnesota, Ohio State, and Indiana. Top 3. Top 3 are moving on. Rutgers is trying to put themselves into the lead. Minnesota's not letting them go. Holding on, moving. Rutgers might have a 2-seat lead. Again, it's really hard to tell by the angle. Ohio State slightly ahead of Indiana. Or it might be, by looking at buoys, they might be even. Okay, Rutgers now really moving well. Starting to move ahead just a little bit. Minnesota working hard to hold off those other crews. Ohio State moving up. Minnesota right now. It's Rutgers, Minnesota, Ohio State, and Indiana. And this is a nice pack of racing. Rutgers trying to establish the lead. Good acceleration. And they're taking a big move right here. Top 3 qualify. So look at this race here. You got Rutgers in the lead, but Minnesota's still in contact with them. Then you've got Indiana and Ohio State racing it out. You got Minnesota. Only one of these crews can't continue to the grand final or move on. Indiana's making a big move here. Minnesota staying in contact with Rutgers. Rutgers trying to extend their lead. Now it's almost, Minnesota's still got a few seats over the other 2 crews, but they're racing really hard for that position. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in this middle 1,000. Minnesota's still out there. in second. But it's starting to get really tight here. Almost 3 boats across. Still looks to be Minnesota slightly ahead of Ohio State, slightly ahead of Indiana. Rutgers in the lead with open water. You can see the 1,000 times. Now you've got Ohio State moving up on Minnesota. Minnesota might still be in the lead. Yeah, look at that racing here. Stroke for stroke. They're trying to move Ohio State. Coxon of Minnesota is looking over at Ohio State. She's asking for more from her crew. Don't count out Indiana. They know how to handle the back half of this race. There goes Ohio State. They're trying to separate themselves from Indiana, but they're going to have to work hard for that. Minnesota's holding it. Ohio State, so we got Rutgers, about a quarter length open water. You got Ohio State moving. Yeah, the Coxon went from being on the 4 seat to almost being on bow seat. Now it's Minnesota and Indiana trying to get into Ohio State, move into that lead that they have, because we are coming down to the final qualification spot. It's Rutgers, who probably can feel the heat of the other crews racing it off. You got Ohio State. Indiana's Coxon's making a correction there. You got Minnesota, Indiana. They are neck and neck. This is the kind of race we want to see here, qualifying for that last spot. Who's it going to be? You need to hold on to the composure. You need to hold on to your technique and then bring that rate up. Indiana seems to have a slight lead here. Slight lead over Minnesota. You got Rutgers coming in. You can hear the crowd cheering them on. Indiana, Minnesota, it's close. Indiana seems to be moving slightly back on Ohio State. Look at that. Rutgers, Ohio State, Indiana moving. Minnesota taking it up. Indiana has a slight lead here. We got Rutgers almost coming across, 5 strokes and they're across the line. And here we go. Rutgers, Ohio State, super close here. Indiana takes it over Minnesota. What a close race. Here comes the other 2 crews here, Iowa and Wisconsin, for 5th and 6th. There's Iowa crossing 5th. Wisconsin had that mishap with the crab where they had to come to a complete stop. And that concludes the second heat of the first Varsity 8. Great racing all the way down. Really great. We're going to have the results shortly, and we'll show you the qualifiers for that race. They're right there. You can see the top qualifiers, Rutgers, Ohio State, Indiana. Minnesota was super close. And now we move into the 4s. Hopefully the water's a little bit better for them. Smaller boats can be harder in rough water. So the next heat that we have